At the time of Jesus, there were four main sects in Judaism: the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Zealots, and the Essenes. The largest sect was the separate ones, or the Pharisees, who sought to separate themselves from the pollutions of the peoples of the land and from the nations of the world with their abominations. They functioned as local teachers, healers, and counselors, much like modern-day rabbis, and they focused on helping people understand and live within the guidelines of the Hebrew Bible by finding a biblical reference for every context. In addition to the Torah, they also recognize the authority of the oral Torah, or the tradition of the elders. This tradition is seen where Jesus is questioned about his disciples eating with unwashed hands. Though there is no verse in the written Torah about such an activity, there is a verse in the oral Torah which commands that the hands be ritually cleansed before a meal. They believed in life after death, angels, and the imminent appearance of the long-promised Messiah, with punishments or rewards for behavior in this life, coming not in this life, but in the life to come. They also felt that a strict obedience to the Torah would help hasten the coming of the Messiah. The smaller sect was the righteous ones, or the Sadducees, which was comprised of the patricians, the wealthy, the priests, and most persons who had contact with Roman authorities. They were in charge of the temple, collected taxes, offered sacrifices, planned festivals, and consequently opposed every popular movement that threatened the power of Roman officials or the high priest. In contrast to the Pharisees, they believed only in the written Torah, and that there was no soul to survive or return after death. So punishments or rewards for behavior in this life came in this life, not in the life to come. This tradition is seen where a man is born blind, and Jesus is asked, "Who sinned that this man was born blind?" The sect of freedom fighters was known as the Zealots. It was comprised of revolutionary Jews whose main purpose was to regain governmental power from the Romans. Also known as the Sicarii, or assassins, they believed that the only good Roman is a dead Roman, and that the Jews who cooperated with the occupying Roman authorities were collaborators and sympathizers. They consistently planned violent attacks against the Roman military and personnel, and would provide much of the leadership for the coming Jewish war and rebellion in 66 CE. The smallest sect was the Essenes, or the Zaddokites, who believed that the best choice was to withdraw from, rather than engage with, the corrupt Roman and temple authorities, so that the coming Messiah would do battle with the forces of evil for them. Closely linked to the Qumran community, who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, they fled Jerusalem to a desert retreat near the Dead Sea, where they awaited the coming of the Messiah. They envisioned a climatic battle with God and the sons of light on one side and the sons of darkness on the other. This battle would be won by the sons of light, and the Essenes would begin ruling the entire world. While waiting for this climactic battle, they copied almost all of the books of the Hebrew Bible. They believed in the old ways, the keeping of rigid kosher laws, and the resistance to Hellenistic Judaism. Judaism has always been both a religion and an ethnicity. As a religion, they were bound by a covenant to the one and only universal God, with religious blessings and benefits being associated with keeping this covenant. As an ethnicity, Jews were heirs of a common history of suffering, segregation, exclusion, and sporadic attempts at extermination. And their task, they believed, was to endure, to respect the secrets of their God, and to prove themselves loyal. While Christian theological tradition often emphasizes orthodoxy, or right belief, Judaism has historically emphasized orthopraxy, or right practice, as seen in their obedience to the Torah. This is also seen in two distinct types of ritual. First, the ritual ceremonial cycle of feasts and fasts, such as Passover, Tabernacle, and Pentecost. And secondly, in their individual rites of passage, such as puberty, marriage, and death. The heart of Judaism is in the home, with the family, rather than in participation in the larger community of faith. The center of Jewish life, however, is organized around the Sabbath, or Shabbat. This is essentially a day of being, not becoming, so that all those bits of life that involve creating, finishing, and planning are put away in order to have a mind free of past and future, and the Sabbath, then, is the most compelling symbol of the Jewish consecration of time. The Sabbath begins with a meal eaten after sundown on Friday evening, when the mistress of the house lights the Sabbath candle and speaks the blessing. The head of the household reads or chants a scriptural text, pronounces the Kiddush, or sanctification, blesses the bread, and begins to break and distribute it to the family, all of whom had previously ritually washed their hands. The Sabbath closes at sundown on Saturday evening with the Havdalah, or separating ritual, in which the head of the household takes a special candle, recites a prayer to thank God for the separation of the sacred from the secular, which the Sabbath symbolized, and extinguishes the candle in a full glass of wine. In the Sabbath meal, with its blend of ritual formality and informal family conversation, we see the Jewish fusion of secular and sacred time. In addition to the family-based Sabbath, there was also the communal synagogue service on Saturday morning. As we noted in a previous video, the synagogue developed during the time of the exile, becoming a place where the Torah could be read and studied, and had as its chief presider a religious teacher and leader called a rabbi.